NFTs, those JPEGs that predictably crashed and burned, are for some reason being put into gaming by developers looking to make a quick buck. And what's worse than that is that those very same games are getting onto Steam, a platform that has openly banned them. Hey there, and welcome to the 7th episode of I try to play all the NFT games on Steam so you don't have to. That is legally how quickly you're supposed to say that title. Any slower and there will be problems. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules. Anyways, without further ado, let's get to the first game for this episode. Are you tired of playing competently made games by developers who kind of give a shit?
This game just works? Ew!
Don't you just hate it when devs update their games and make it better over time?
Is that patch notes and bug fixes? Gross!
Wouldn't it be better if a game promises nothing and still getting less than that?
Fuck yeah, I love broken games!
Well, say hello to the hottest new FPS of 2020 whatever. It's got crypto. It's got shooting. It's got all the makings of an Unreal Engine sample project asset flip cobbled together by a developer who couldn't give less of a shit. It's Crypto Shooter! Move over, Counter-Strike, because we got a new CS in town! Crypto Shooter. I mean, what is there to say about this game? It's your typical asset flip slop, a genre of games made by people looking to make a quick buck and that have no interest or business being in game development. Now, to be fair, asset flips aren't unique to NFT games. They've existed long before NFTs were even a thing. I mean, obviously, did you really think that NFT devs came up with something all on their own? No, of course not. Even their scams aren't unique. Shockingly, Crypto Shooter isn't out yet, with only a demo and no release date. And I'm just gonna go out on a limb here and say that Crypto Shooter is probably, most likely, never going to release. Now, is it due to the lack of game updates, or is it possibly because their last news update was in 2021? I'll let you figure it out, but I guarantee you, there is absolutely no way Crypto Shooter ever releases. But with that said, let's continue making fun of this game because, believe it or not, Crypto Shooter is the perfect representation of the quality of NFT games that flooded the market when NFTs became a thing. The oh-so-common first-person shooter asset flip. This will be like looking at a time capsule. You'll be able to see the kind of slop that aspiring scammers quickly cobbled together during the early days of NFT gaming. Is there a noticeable difference between then and now? No, there isn't, but let's continue. Crypto Shooter is an action-filled first-person shooter with blockchain-based tokenized statistics? What the fuck does that mean? Statistics, like your kill-death ratio, weapon accuracy, win count? Finally, you can mint your kill count to the blockchain so crypto bros can see just how much of a gamer you really are. Here's my KDR NFT. Please don't right-click. I'll be very upset if you do. I'm surprised this didn't trigger any red flags over at Steam headquarters. I mean, I understand having crypto in the title doesn't mean it's a crypto game. There are a surprising amount of games on Steam with crypto in the name, but come on. Blockchain-based tokenized statistics? You would think this would at least warrant a "What do you mean by that?" from Valve, but oh well. I suppose you can't expect a small indie studio like Valve to enforce the rules that they themselves came up with. They're only worth a couple $1 billion after all. I guess moderation is beyond their scope. Now, people have commented that these NFT games use ChatGPT for their description, although I can't confirm or deny that since I don't use ChatGPT, I don't know the science. You can say I'm pretty old school, I just use the old noggin to think and write things. But Crypto Shooter? I am almost positive, 95% positive, that these guys did not use ChatGPT, and I'm gonna read their entire About This Game section verbatim to prove it. Ahem. Crypto Shooter is a modern take on the classic fast-paced shooter gameplay. Its multiplayer gameplay features human and AI opponents engaging in challenging and exciting matches. Oh, that's it. That's their entire description. 2 sentences. Now I know it's easy to dunk on NFT devs, but come on. There is no way in hell they had to use a powerful generative AI chatbot to come up with 2 sentences, right? I mean, surely ChatGPT would vomit out paragraphs of exposition, not just 2 sentences, right? There is no way that an NFT dev would be that lazy, right? Don't answer that. These guys also use the word modern, another common buzzword in NFT games. What do they even mean by that? A modern take? What about any of this is modern? Have these guys not played a shooter in the last 2 decades? Don't answer that. But if you look closely at their trailer, you'll start to understand what they mean by a modern take. You see, classic shooters tend to be fun and well built. They have fun little details like a muzzle flash, the bullets actually coming out of the barrel, sound effects that matched what you did, a stable frame rate. You know, classic shooter type things. But with Crypto Shooter, let's take a look. Muzzle flash? Nope. The bullets? They come from underneath the gun. Sound effects? Sometimes. Motion blur? Always. And frame rate? Never heard of it. And I have to stress, this is their trailer. This is the first thing that plays when you enter the page. It's insane to think about, but this was something that they consciously recorded, possibly even edited, and then thought to themselves, this'll do. You know, back in my days, trailers were created for the express purpose of getting people interested in your game. I suppose I'm just no longer with the times. Also, their second trailer literally freezes at 147, and they still kept it in. Now before we get to the demo, there is something I have to confess. In the intro for Crypto Shooter, I said, "It's got crypto." But I don't think this game does. I tried searching for literally anything about Crypto Shooter, but the website link on their store page doesn't work. Looking up Crypto Shooter on Google leads to other crypto games, and their developer website leads to a single landing page with nothing but screenshots on it. There's zero info on any NFT collections or crypto coins that I could find. So yeah, Crypto Shooter, clearly it's just abandonware. Shocked Pikachu face. But we still have a demo to check out, so let's get to it. I mean, really, what did you expect? It is exactly what it looks like, a basic, barely functional asset flip. Good work to the original asset makers though, it doesn't look that bad, but man, even in this extremely short demo, there are a lot of problems, so let's just start from the top. First of all, launching this game I got hit with a Windows security alert. It's probably nothing, probably just a false alarm, but I swear if my account gets hacked, you know why. We get a generic looking main menu with a random space background that has nothing to do with the game, and it's also bright as hell. I go to the settings and the UI is massive. There's barely any options, not even a single graphical option. But the music was off by default, which was probably for the best. These NFT asset flips tend to just use random copywritten music. I turned it on just out of curiosity and the menu still doesn't have any music in it. So that's cool. Now even though there are barely any options, they still manage to mess it up. If you try to change the resolution on windowed mode, which by the way there's only a handful of resolutions, it doesn't change the UI scaling. So it all looks squished together, which was pretty funny, but obviously I'm not playing like that. Anyways, clicking Match Explorer, it returns an invalid. And in Join Game, there's only two options, Host and Search. Clicking Host immediately sets up a match. There's no option settings, map choice, bot customization, nothing. It just creates a pre-made bot match, which I assume to be the only one they got properly working if the trailer is anything to go by, with the other map having as many frames as I have fingers. I'll give them this though, there's no motion blur, so they've at least done something instead of completely nothing. The first thing I do is just observe the bots, and they are something. They just walk at each other firing their gun, but they'll randomly switch their aim to other bots without even killing their initial target. Also, their models have them aiming the gun above the other models for some reason, not even at head level. How does that even happen? But the bots just have extremely basic enemy AI programmed into them. They don't sprint, jump, or even change weapons. And speaking of weapons, we get 4 of them, and they are a treat. We have a generic assault rifle with 100 in a mag and 1000 total ammo, and has the special feature of a muzzle flash, the only weapon to have it. A plasma grenade launcher with the special feature of infinite ammo, a sniper, I think, that also has infinite ammo, and a rocket launcher that doesn't have infinite ammo, and that's about it. There's nothing particularly special about any of them. I mean, the shooting is, well, you can shoot, so that's something, right? But this game is about as generic as you can get. Nothing about it screams modern or fast-paced. There's also no other map. Trust me, I checked. I actually finished the match and waited for another one to start, and it just loaded up the same map. Which for some reason the bots were already playing in, but I personally still had to wait to actually get in the match. What kind of bullshit is this? Trying to give the bots a head start? Not on my watch, bucko. Also, you have no idea how long I tried to get any clip of a bot killing me for that intro. Because look at them. I literally stand in front of them and they just miss. Then they'll start aiming somewhere else, or worse, they'll just walk away. Like, bro, I'm talking to you. Don't just walk away. Fucking kill me, you coward. But yeah, this is it. This is basically the poster child of what NFT games were like back in the day. And honestly, current days too. Man, 2021 was 4 years ago. How time flies. So that's Crypto Shooter. It doesn't have crypto, and it's barely a shooter. This game is 13 gigabytes too, like what the fuck? BlockLords is a player-driven medieval grand strategy game where your decisions and skills, and most importantly NFT wallet, will shape the world and narrative. I'm sure it will, buddy. BlockLords is currently unreleased on Steam with a potential Q4 2025 release date. But if you wanted to play this microtransaction-filled crypto mobile game, it is released in early access on the Epic Games Store. Now you're probably thinking, wow, that's pretty presumptuous of you, you haven't even played the game yet. Well, luckily I don't have to. They show it on their own trailer. They proudly showcase this influence store where you can purchase in-game resources in this PvP grand strategy game using real money, as well as their imaginary cryptocurrency LRDS. Yes, I love the grand strategy of using my credit card. And as if that wasn't enough, one of their screenshots is of a competition to win some of their crypto coin, which much like most crypto coins is worth basically nothing, a whopping 13 cents. Well, at least it's worth 10 times more than other coins, so good for them. Looking at the screenshots though, it's all just menus, which I suppose when you boil it all down is what grand strategy games tend to be, but do we really need 35 screenshots of, hey look, you can level up buildings with currency that you can win by doing FOMO events or buying it in our shop. Scrolling down, we get a cutscene gif, which honestly looks alright, but obviously not what the game looks like. And some gameplay, which, I mean, it's a grand strategy, it's mainly just watching things happen, so it's kinda hard to judge the game solely from that. Now, due to the game very openly shoving crypto down your throat, I would hope this game never releases on Steam. I mean, I don't even know if the developers even realize they have a Steam version up. There isn't a single news post or game update. The discussions have 4 posts, one of which tell people how to earn a single dollar, and another actually having played the game already, stating that the game is buggy, ugly, and has crypto. Although to be fair, this post was over a year ago, so who knows? Maybe it's gotten better. But yeah, 0 developer posts on Steam. Hell, even on their own website, they don't even have a wishlist on Steam like other NFT games usually do. And Twitter? Just more Epic Games Store ads. Also, that guy really wasn't kidding. It does look way worse than Age of Empires. What's even going on here? Is this how you hold a sword? Well, at the very least, we can assume they're using their own models and animations, so +1 to them. 2 years and barely any improvement, which is crazy because these guys raised $15 million in seed funding for BlockLords, on top of all the crypto sales and in-game microtransaction sales. Where the hell is all that money going? Jesus Christ. And don't forget, all their NFTs, which you can find on their marketplace, where you can buy heroes and banners for the low price of 10,300 Ethereum. Love how they use that instead of their own worthless coin, which translates to 45,022,948 USD. Or the metric for today's episode, 750,382.46 repeating copies of Stellar Blade, a game I recently finished and overall found pretty fun. It was okay. But if you forgo buying that many copies of Stellar Blade, you'll be the proud owner of a basic Dragon Shield banner. Hooray to you! These NFTs of course are used to get in-game rewards in this PvP MMO, totally not pay to win. And that's all for BlockLords. Hopefully I never see this game again. Also, I just realized the block in BlockLords probably stands for blockchain. Fuck off, BlockLords. Riftstorm is a stylistic top-down co-op looter-shooter set in a world of myth and secret societies. The gameplay in the trailer looks really fun, and it doesn't seem to have an insane amount of cringe like in Degenheim, another top-down shooter I covered a while ago. The visual presentation also looks pretty solid. I like the art style, so I have some hopes for this game. Riftstorm isn't out yet and doesn't have a planned release date, but they do have a demo that they are regularly updating, with their latest one letting us try out a new character, Thistle, which looks to be a secret society looking character. Reminds me a little bit of The Secret World. Anyone remember that MMO? Good times. Also, there's a decent amount of reviews on their demo too, 353, and it's very positive, with none of them seemingly from NFT bots, which is a pretty good sign. Now you might be thinking, damn, what a shame that this game is going to have NFTs. Me too, I thought that as well, but luckily for us, the developers, Confliction Labs, do have a pinned post on the discussions page disclosing their use of Web3 and AI, as well as how they're going to be used, which already, massive respect to them. Too many NFT devs try to hide their crypto and AI usage, but long story short, for their AI use, they're using a text-to-speech generator to voice a certain robotic character, and ChatGPT for proofreading, as English is not their first language. And Web3? Well, basically all their lore and universe outside of the game is going to be utilizing NFTs, none of which is supposedly going to be affecting or be in the game itself. But if NFTs are going to be building the universe and lore, wouldn't that affect the story and characters in the game? Meaning that NFTs would be indirectly affecting the game itself? Am I wrong in thinking that? They said they're experimenting with the technology, but I don't know. It feels like a roundabout way of skirting Steam's rules. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt here, but I'm not really too fond of this idea. They're also really trying to make it sound like it's going to be a good thing where even investors can help shape the IP, because with the amount of money that crypto investors can pour into a project, there's a high likelihood they'll become the main driving force, which would fucking suck. Crypto bros and investors aren't exactly known for their imagination or even love for the arts. Also, just for posterity's sake, I did find an article from CoinTrust that covered Riftstorm, noting that the developers have said that players who participate in the demo phase will receive exclusive rewards. Not sure if it's going to be Web3 related or not. Blockchain technology will serve as a security layer in future releases, facilitating legacy-based transactions to record player progress and support consequence-based missions. Confliction Labs have further assured players that they will be eligible for future rewards and airdrops, the latter usually associated with NFTs and crypto. This article is from October of 2024, but it really sounds like NFT purchases will have some sort of advantages here. I don't know if they've since changed their mind or maybe they're just lying, but it's something to keep in mind. Now luckily, Riftstorm doesn't have any crypto coins, but they do of course have an NFT collection, the XPSR24, which is a collection of characters looking directly at you, the most expensive being sold for around 8.7 stellar blades. The NFT's utility as of right now are used in a separate activity found on their website, where it can level up by doing quests, which gives it new graffitis as well as giving you VIP status and priority during events. Hopefully this all stays far away from the game itself, but we'll have to see what the future holds. Alright, now then, let's play the Riftstorm demo. Now then, first things first, this is the second playable game for this video, so please, will this be the game that breaks the curse? Is it going to work? Will it actually be playable? Okay, we can log in via Steam, which is a good sign, no need for an external account. Chungus McBunger. Oh yeah, that's my Steam name, whoops. Come on, come on. Yes! A working second game! We did it! The curse is broken, hell yeah! Alright, well, let's just rewind a bit. After logging in, we actually get a small cutscene, which we can skip. Apparently this used to not be skippable according to some reviews, but that's fixed now. And this cutscene gives us some context on where we're going. It's a pretty chill cutscene, and the voice acting is, I assume, what they're using the AI generation for, since it's the only voice acting in the game.
To containment base, cabin 41. This facility is a high-threat mythic containment, research and disposal facility. Update.
Once the train ride is over, we get off at cabin 41. Some characters talk to us like Archivist and Knight, and we finally have control. I'm already loving the tutorial being tied into the story. It's a small thing, I know, but I appreciate it nonetheless. We got WASD movement, left click to shoot, right click to aim in. Reload is a bit weird since it's automatic. There's no reload button. Once you stop shooting, you just start to reload. We have 2 weapons on us, looks like an assault rifle and pistol, a dodge, and 3 abilities that are on cooldowns. This character's ability seems to be a grenade, an orb thing which stuns enemies, and a landmine. Once I'm finished testing the controls, I look around the cabin. There's some characters that say some dialogue when you get close, but it's otherwise just set dressing. I approach the knight from before and she tells me to join them in the auditorium once I'm done looking around, so I do. We get a brief orientation before disaster inevitably strikes, an attack. We get stuck underneath some debris and Knight from before tries to save us, but not before getting killed by a ghost creature. Rest in peace, Knight. I have to say, I'm really enjoying the atmosphere so far, it's pretty good. But here is where the actual game starts, the actual tutorial stage. We're given this crystal structure that we can open to get a choice of upgrades for the run, each affecting our attacks. We have a choice from ricocheting rounds, rounds that split on hit, or placing an AoE dot when we hit. I picked that one because fire seems fun. And away we go. The background actually has things happening around it, giving us some environmental storytelling, which is pretty cool. The loop of a stage is pretty simple. You go to point A, do some objectives, and find some upgrades along the way. Typical hack and slash type stuff. And the upgrades in this game are pretty fun. The next one I picked gives bounce to my bullets in exchange for some damage. And this makes my bullets basically home in on another enemy after the initial hit. A bit of a spoiler, but it gets pretty chaotic the kinds of builds you can get, it's real fun. We then encounter a bigger enemy, an elite, which has more health, damage, and some telegraphed attacks. We get to a bigger room to find some scientist guy who won't leave his lab, and we have to do a wave defense, which rewards us with another ability once we finish. I do some more objectives, then we see a cutscene with that previous scientist getting attacked by a boss-like creature. Just for fun, I stay around to see if it, does anything, and it kinda does. It reaches the end and teleports out. Nice little detail. We take an elevator and reach a massive rift, and we're told to close it. I try my best, but no. We get overrun. My abilities get locked, and we experience our first death. But not before we get saved by the other playable characters in a cool and flashy cutscene. And that's the end of the tutorial. And that was a good tutorial, I'm very impressed. Once we load back in, we get a notification about the demo. Here we'll experience 2 mythic species, which are the bosses, 5 operatives, not 4 with the introduction of Thistle, 36 weapons, and 4 missions, a decent amount for a proper demo. But now that you have an idea of the game, I'll just skip to all the good stuff, since I actually did try out every character and do every mission, and I have to say, it's a good game. There is one issue I had, and it's not so much the game itself, but what I thought about the demo, but we'll get to that later. So, in this demo, we have access to 5 characters, each specializing in 3 different weapons and abilities. Starling here can only equip assault rifles, handguns, and a launcher. Her abilities focus around her weapon, giving her buffs to crit rate, damage, etc. Hertz is a close quarters tank focusing on shotguns with abilities like damage reduction and AoE stuns. Waltz is a longer range character with a sniper and the ability to summon turrets and detonate them for huge damage. Thistle, the new character, is short to mid range with abilities that create AoEs and zones that do damage or crowd control. And then there's Rook, who we used in the tutorial. There are 2 more characters, but they're not playable, and potentially 2 more who are redacted for a total of 9 planned. All in all, it's a pretty big roster. Now for the purposes of this demo, all our characters are max level with a fully maxed skill tree, which we can't actually access, so it's difficult to gauge how grindy the game will be at launch. We're also given these extremely powerful accessories that buff our character's stats, with certain ones actually affecting specific character abilities, changing how they function. For example, this one gives Botsy's turrets a bigger deployment range instead of a regenerating shield. We can also level these too, but it's not implemented yet in the demo. They stay at level 1. We have a forge station where we can craft weapons with money and scrap with 2 categories, random or data seed crafting, which just lets us craft a specific weapon. As for the weapons, this is a looter shooter, so they have rarities, combat power, i.e. item level, and passive perks. Each character can carry any 2 weapons that they have a specialty for, and this is what you're going to be grinding for in the demo since you're given pretty weak weapons here. For the demo, we have access to 4 missions, 2 of which are your normal get to the end beat a boss mission. One is a tower defense where we have to protect 2 towers where we can find resources and build turrets around it, as well as being able to extract every 10 waves, similar to something like Warframe's endless defense missions. And one final mission where we have to fend off waves of incredibly tough enemies, which is recommended to co-op. Overall, it's a pretty fun demo. I like how powerful the in-run buffs are. The weapons are fun and operate fairly differently from each other. For example, the sniper requires you to charge it for a second before you can fire, and shooting at the perfect time grants you a damage bonus. Although some felt a lot weaker than they should be, like the triple burst rocket launcher. It didn't feel good, or the shotgun, which is a shame since those are my 2 favorite weapon types. Hopefully they get buffed in the full release. The 2 bosses they gave us have actual mechanics and are pretty difficult, although the first boss, however, kinda, well, here's how the fight went.
High value target located. High value target damaged.
Yeah, I kinda wrecked it. It was hilarious though. I really like that you can be OP in this game. The stages themselves aren't too long either, around 10 to 20 minutes, and when you beat a stage you get a decent amount of loot. Although since you're dropped in effectively the end game, I don't think this is how quickly you're going to be getting better equipment. From the first level alone, I went from eye level 300 gear to 600. Each character is pretty fun, although I definitely enjoyed Botsy and Thistle the most. I love summoning turrets and field AoEs, but the other characters were fun too, like stomping around with Hertz and taking basically 0 damage. The overall pacing of the mission and different modes were good. I had fun with how chaotic the builds got, with explosions and AoE fields covering the arena, and with all the enemies swarming you, it actually felt like a proper horde game. A critique though. The elements in this game, which are elements from the periodic table, a pretty nice touch, are not really explained. Like sometimes elite enemies will have a salt bar, and I'm not too sure if I'm supposed to be using salt attacks on it to cancel it, or a different element. That wasn't really clear. But my main critique, however, is not really towards the game and the mechanics itself, but towards how the demo was handled. Basically, I don't actually like how they dropped us into the endgame straight away. I understand it's to show off what the game will be like and to get us interested, but if I'm being honest, that tutorial stage was much better paced. You see, my problem is that because they gave us maxed out characters with powerful accessories, it's 1, hard to gauge how grindy the game will be and how well the character progression will feel, and 2, the weapons. They felt really weak. They were completely overshadowed by the character abilities. Unless you were playing someone like Starling who specialized in buffing weapons, the weapons themselves barely did any damage. Compare this to the tutorial where I was using both weapons and abilities because they were both at equal strength and enemies were dying to both at a reasonable time. Take a look at the second boss fight. I was using a shotgun and a rocket launcher, both of which are at a similar power level to the mission. I was doing no damage with them, but the stomp move was taking chunks of his life. It's insane the difference. Honestly, it would have been much better if they just put us at level 1 and let us level up to a player cap like 5 or 10 or something. That way we can experience the normal progression while also letting us better experiment with the weapons. Because as much as I enjoyed the game, I don't think I really appreciated all of those abilities since they were all maxed anyways and I didn't really need to think about how or when to use them since they were killing everything pretty much effortlessly. But that's everything I can think of for this demo, and this section is also getting pretty long already, so let's finish this section off. I definitely enjoyed Riftstorm. It's a pretty decent demo and has potential, but it's just a shame that they have NFTs though. Hopefully they move far away from that, or at the very least keep their promise of keeping it out of the game. I know they said they wanted to build a community using NFTs and Web3 tech, but come on. Do you really want a community of crypto bros? Don't answer that. Oh, also, one thing I forgot to mention is that this game has co-op and it is functional. I didn't try it since I have no friends, sad face, but it is there. And of course, the progression of the demo isn't going to carry over to the game once it fully releases. So yeah, Riftstorm. It's a fun demo. It's infinitely better than Degenheim. Badmad Robots is an unreleased team-based free-to-play multiplayer shooter where you play as these punk robots and battle it out on the streets. The gameplay in the trailer doesn't look too bad, at the very least it doesn't look like an asset flip, so it's already one up on Crypto Shooter. The aesthetic and visuals look decent and could potentially be a decent free-to-play shooter, but we'll never know because like I said, it's not released on Steam, or even Epic, with neither platform having a potential release date. Hell, on Steam there's no updates, news posts or anything, it's radio silent. Their website links to a completely black screen, which I assume was supposed to play a video in the background, but all it is just a link to wishlist the game on Steam, not Epic. Badmad Robots' YouTube channel only has 3 videos posted well over a year ago. Their Twitter, however, is pretty active, or at the very least actively reposting other users' posts about a game night for Badmad Robots, which means there is a released version of the game somewhere, and people are playing it. Although, call me a cynic, but I can't really tell if these guys genuinely like the game or have some ulterior motives. I had a quick look at a lot of these content creators' Twitter posts, and a lot of them are just posting about crypto coins, using AI art to shill something or another, with the occasional Badmad Robots posts, and, no offense, but none of them seem particularly interested in gaming, or even Badmad Robots itself. So it's almost like they're being paid to post about it or something. And the one thing that kinda reinforces that theory is when you look at their Discord. It's completely dead. Those same content creators don't even post here. Even though this is the only way to get access to the game, you'd be lucky to get a post a day. But there is one post in particular that caught my eye that asks if the project is still alive because 1, their crypto coin Acid hasn't been released yet, and this is important because they actually already had a prior crypto coin, Metal, which they pulled away from and removed from everyone's wallet with the promise of giving previous buyers the equivalent in Acid coins if that ever releases. 2, their blockchain was put on hold with literally no posts on the blockchain channel, and 3, important members of their team left according to their LinkedIn. Another user further chimed in stating that the team basically abandoned everything and there's been no information or updates on anything. Ninja, not that one, who's a Discord mod, simply states that various influencers and content creators are covering the game and that details about the token will be shared soon. This was posted well over a week ago. I decided to take a look over the announcements and their last post was in April about a game night. That's it, nothing else. So yeah, obvious rug pull is obvious. I highly doubt this game will ever see the light of day, but oh well, I almost feel sorry for the guy who supposedly put a lot of money into this game. Almost. One last thing before we go though, their NFT collection. They do have them, apparently, which they gave away as part of a raffle they held a year ago, where you can win NFT loot boxes, which would give some exclusive items like in-game skins, a founder's pass, as well as a Season 0 battle pass for a game that will never release. Truth be told, I don't even know if you can open them since you can't even access the game, but here they are, for the low price of 5.2 Stellar Blades. But yeah, that's all for Badmad Robots. It's just a rug pull. Shelter of Exiles is a strategic action MMORPG developed for tryhards and players who demand more from gaming. I got a good feeling about this one. The trailer does a piss poor job of showcasing anything since it's just a flurry of really quick edits, like something you'd find on TikTok, but it looks like it's maybe a turn-based game with something like Might and Magic style combat. It's hard to tell. The second trailer is a little bit better, and I guess it's not turn-based. It just has hexagons for tiles, but it looks like it's sped up a bunch, so who knows. The UI and HUD size, however, makes me believe it's yet another mobile game. None of that matters, of course, since the game isn't out yet with no potential release date. They do have a demo, and unlike other NFT devs, these guys actually did their due diligence and created a separate demo page for reviews, so good for them. The demo only has 6 reviews, not enough for a proper score, but the 3 that are viewable are positive, so potential good sign. They were from last year though, so take from that what you will. The Steam charts for the demo, by the way, has a peak player count of 9, so I got a real good feeling about this one. With that said, however, I have a feeling, just a small inkling, that Shelter of Exiles is not going to be releasing on Steam. Like ever. I know, shocker, right? But Shelter of Exiles' last developer update was last year in July, with the discussions page being completely dead, with the last developer post being in 2023. On top of the no release date, all of this is pointing to a no-show on Steam. But honestly, that's not even the reason why I think that. It's what they say on their website. Their website, which of course has a banner linking to their crypto coin, which is currently worth around a penny, sometimes less. But on their website, they describe Shelter of Exiles as a groundbreaking blockchain game featuring a decentralized economy and collectible NFTs. NFTs not, yeah. Shelter of Exiles is yet another blockchain game. It's almost impressive that these guys are confident enough to think that they would get through to Steam as is. They still even have a link to their Steam page. But what really gets me is that they refer to the gameplay as AI agent driven. If you don't know what an AI agent is, it's basically just a program that does things for you. And yes, that does mean exactly what you're thinking. Gone are the days where you have to sit down and actually play the game. Now you can just let the AI do it for you. So you can do all the other exciting stuff like the laundry, cooking, going to work. Let the AI have the fun for you so you don't have to. So when they said they developed the game for tryhards and players who demand more from gaming, I guess they were actually talking about their AI. Makes sense. Anyways, as for their NFTs, I couldn't find them because I assume it's hosted in their in-game marketplace, which I assume is only on the Telegram version and not on the Steam, meaning I won't get to compare them to copies of Stellar Blade. A shame. Now, before we get to the demo, a funny thing I found out about the developer, Pixel Traps with 2 Ps, is that these guys are claiming that their top tier team have a proven track record and lists 3 Web3 projects: Shelter of Exiles, Digital Miners, and
hell no, man.
Wizar. Remember that game? The Worms rip that got abandoned like 3 months after launch? Yeah, They're listing that as part of their showcase on their ability to deliver end-to-end solutions. Man, do I have a good feeling about Shelter of Exiles. Let's get into the demo. Shelter of Exiles is definitely one of those not a demo demos. Honestly, I don't really know the difference between a demo and early access for these online NFT games anymore, but here we go. Of course we have a login, but I'm not entirely sure to which account. There's no create account button and all these buttons just lead to their socials, so I just click guest, which crashes the first time but works the second time. Weird. We get a welcome page that tells us the features for this demo. This, I wouldn't be surprised if they used some terrible translation app or just didn't bother to proofread since the wording is pretty bad. Drop items from enemies, collect abilities and use them to alter battle, combine real-time combat with tactical board, trade your collection with vendor and market, reach best place in seasonal activities for prestige loot. Yeah, it's pretty odd. Anyways, I look around the menu and go into our inventory where we get introduced to our hunk of a man. Unfortunately, there's no character customization since that's apparently locked away, so this is all we've got to work with. And immediately I notice something odd. He's not holding that sword. It's literally floating in front of his hand, somehow being worse than BlockLords, but it's not just the sword either, the wand is the same way. Well, I'm sure they'll fix it. But the armor is actually separate from the character. You can even unequip them to show it all off. Yeah, he's definitely not natty. We got a leaderboard, the vendor with a bunch of tabs and currencies where we can buy abilities and armor for this red currency. Not entirely sure what it is yet. A quest log for dailies and weeklies and a world map where we have all our campaign stages, which by the way, they claim to be over 20 hours long. And I'm telling you this right now, I ain't sticking around that long. There are 60 normal stages with a bunch of bigger activities that require a special resource to get in. We can't do any of that, so let's just do our first stage. Every stage we're given a bunch of battle modifiers, which is just our tutorial and explanation of any new mechanic like a new stage hazard or monster. And to be fair, there are a decent amount of them. The combat is pretty simple and it is an auto battler, but you can take manual control of your character by clicking on a tile or enemy. You can also change the character behavior with this button. You have 3 behaviors: a hand, which is manual control, shield, which is stand in place and attack only in range, and these dual swords, which is attack everything. Each stage is generally the same, you just have to beat several waves, 7 in this case, which is already a lot, but the enemy composition and potential stage hazards do change. Also, tile buffs will randomly appear throughout the stage and you can pick them up for a boost. Luckily only you can pick them up since they can get pretty wild like 100% crit or invincibility. At the end of a stage, you get some equipment and abilities, each having different stats in a level, with higher rarities having more passives and a level determining their strength. And like I said before, the equipment does show on the character, which is nice. The armor at the very least fit on the body, unlike the weapons. The abilities are also equipped and are split into 3 categories. Battle Will, one word, which are mainly offensive abilities. Creativity, we'll see later, that are more supportive, and Annihilation, which is your ultimate. Funny it's called that since the first ultimate you get is just a full heal, so I suppose you're annihilating your wounds. Each stage usually introduces something new, which is cool. The next one properly introduces the power-ups and a new elite creature, the Golem. Most of the enemies generally act the same, just running up to you and attacking, but later on they do have some unique mechanics like a knockback, a pull, range attack, or even a debuff. One thing I should note is the sound effects are really squishy. I think it'd be better just to let you listen for yourself. That is basically the main sound effect you'll hear when attacking. It doesn't change per enemy or even weapon. I had to lower the sound effects. It was really uncomfortable sounding. Anyways, back to the game. Abilities. The first one you get is a whirlwind thing that scales with physical damage. Each ability uses up mana that regenerates when you pick up these star items. Abilities don't get automatically used, so you do still need to activate them manually. They also have a cooldown, but I found out that if you spam the button, you can cast a bunch of them in a row and they go all over the place. I'm not too sure if that's intended. I beat the stage, get more loot, and another ability, a heal, which goes into the creativity slot. I also get a new weapon that I equip, an axe that hits slower but has the highest damage coefficient, their words. Each piece of equipment, by the way, has random stats and passives, and there are a lot here. You got things like crit chance, attack speed, physical resist, magic resist, elemental bonus, and all of these stats that you could scroll over to see what they do. This is honestly pretty amazing. You can probably make a lot of builds here, assuming they're all balanced well, but nonetheless, I am impressed. Anyways, I continue forward and do some more tutorialing. They do sometimes try to change the map around by adding walls and obstacles, but the actual tile layout stays the same, so it can get pretty repetitive after a while, and the combat is kinda repetitive too. It is an auto battler though, so I guess it's kind of expected. Anyways, after a bit, I decided to clean up my inventory and look around at the vendor. Still can't afford these mysterious items, but I check around the other tabs. I land on this tab where I can sell these lanterns for this red currency and notice something odd. Gain SOEX. Huh, SOEX? That sounds familiar. Isn't that their cryptocurrency? Yeah, it is. Wait, what? Am I getting crypto by selling this? Yeah, look, it even says you can get it by trade on marketplace brackets soon. Hold on, is this their cryptocurrency? Valve, please. Are you serious? You guys didn't find this? Come on, no wonder so many NFT games are getting through. It really is that easy. Ugh. Anyways, what this also means is that Shelter of Exiles is incredibly pay to win, because with that crypto coin, you can buy some really powerful stuff. These aspects you can purchase gives you a buff for an hour, from summoning a helper dog, guaranteed crit for the first 12 seconds in a match, more power-up spawns or invincibility for 8 seconds. You can buy these lanterns that let you go to the special stages, abilities with a significantly higher level, and higher level legendary equipment, which I actually did manage to buy one by selling 2 lanterns I got either as a rare drop or a guaranteed reward. I bought this legendary level 39 helmet with some pretty powerful stats. Now, you would think, oh, a level 39 item, surely you'd have to also be level 39 or above to equip it, right? No. There's no level requirement. I could just equip it the moment I use their crypto coin to buy it, which by the way is the only way to buy it. You can't use gold or whatever other currencies these are, just their SOEX coin. And remember, this game does have a leaderboard, so pay to win alert. Well, now that you've seen enough, I'll just skip ahead. I played Shelter of Exiles for around 3 hours and got up to stage 31 before deciding to call it quits. And I've got some more observations. First off, they do introduce new enemies and mechanics every stage or so, which was cool. Things like buffing and debuffing totems if you stood in them, random explosive barrels that go through invincibility frames, enemies that pull you towards or away from them, or create a dot field on death. So there actually is a lot of variety here. But something that I noticed, and maybe it's just anecdotal, but the loot became worse the longer I played. In the early stages, I was getting greens, purples, and blues, a decent amount of them too, on top of abilities. I did get commons, but not that much. Compared to the later stages, I barely got loot. Don't get me wrong, I still got the occasional purple, but not at the same rate. And this is important because stages start to take a long time to finish, not just because enemy health starts to get bloated, but because they also start to increase the amount of waves required to beat a stage. In the beginning it was 7 waves, which already felt like a lot, but it generally took around a minute or a minute and a half. By stage 10, I had to beat 10 waves. By stage 20, which is only a third of the way to 60, I had to start fighting 13 waves. By stage 30, I was fighting upwards of 16 waves. That's more than double from when I started, although it can go down sometimes. So I was fighting more than double the enemies, taking almost 3 minutes per stage, and getting worse and less loot. Now like I said, this is all anecdotal. It could have just been my imagination, but my equipment started to fall behind. The stages didn't get harder, the enemies just started having more health. Also, abilities, they don't drop, like at all. After I got my Annihilation skill and final Battle Will skill at stage 14, I didn't get a single ability drop again. And I played until stage 31, which leads me to believe that those drops were predetermined since I never got a duplicate and they never hit past level 10. All this to say that my time to kill started to go up drastically, since my abilities were stuck at level 10 and good equipment weren't dropping anymore. In fact, I think the only reason I got so far was due to the legendary equipment I bought with their cryptocurrency. So I was just about ready to call it quits, but not before I got another lantern, which I could use to access those special stages. So I used the only one I hadn't sold and entered the first special stage, which by the way, each special stage needs to be unlocked by reaching them on the world map first, and each of them requires a specific lantern. There's like 10 different lanterns too, so... As for this one, you have to fight an ice golem boss, and they actually have mechanics, which is a pleasant surprise. This boss is immune to crowd control, and every time it loses 20% HP, it becomes invincible, and you have to pick up fire power-ups off the ground to make it vulnerable again. And every 30 seconds, the winter is spawned, slowing everyone down. The fight is basically the same as all the other fights. The ice golem has the same attack pattern as the normal golems, and sometimes adds will spawn. When it becomes invincible, you just have to pick up the fire power-ups, and after about a minute of circling, I beat him and I get white rarity boots and an ability. It's a duplicate of what I already have, but it's a higher level. And this is where the realization sinks in that in order to upgrade your abilities, hell, to get new ones, you need to beat these cave bosses, which can only be accessed by using lanterns, which you either get as a rare drop, although I 100% believe the 3 I got were predetermined, or you can buy it in the cash shop using SOEX coin. At this point, I was done with the game. I did a couple more stages and called it quits, although not before I finished my final daily. You see, throughout the game, I was getting this currency. No idea what it is, but I've been slowly getting them. In 3 hours, I got about 200 from normal play, and there was 2 dailies here that gave me 200 each. Now with 600, I can buy this chest, where I can get an elite item, unique item, flare, and or lantern. Since they just use commas, I'm not too sure if I get all of them or just one, but I decided to buy one, and I don't know what I got. I didn't get a notification or anything, so I thought it bugged out. There was nothing in my inventory, no new equipment or ability, and I was kinda pissed. Did I just get duped? Luckily, no. I went to the world map and hovered over the lanterns. I got a lantern, a white one to be exact, which I can't use on any of the current caves because I don't have the correct stage unlocked. And that's Shelter of Exiles. I would be lying if I said it was the worst game I've ever played. Mechanically, it's fine. It's just an auto battler, but there is a decent amount of variety in terms of loot and weapons. It's definitely better than Wizar, although that is a pretty low bar. But I wouldn't call Shelter of Exiles a game for tryhards or for players who demand more from gaming. I also have to wonder if the AI agent that they've been bragging about is actually just referring to the player AI that someone in the dev team programmed. Who knows? But Shelter of Exiles is basically on the same level as a pay-to-win mobile game, mainly because it is a pay-to-win mobile game, which means that it's already better than the majority of NFT games out there. Yikes. And that is 3 fully functioning demos. Although one was just an asset flip, but hey, it worked, so better than most. Nothing much to say, but thank you to Riftstorm for breaking the second game curse. I'm glad it was a game that was actually pretty decent. And of course, let's not forget my channel members, with a big welcome to Dan, who became a new member. Welcome to the Anti-NFTers Club. Hope you enjoy your stay. And to Toast, who now has a slick blue rarity icon for being a recurring member. Thank you to both of you for supporting the channel. Your memberships allow me to continue making these videos, especially since it takes me a while to make them. Sorry about that. But to all my non-members, my subscribers, don't worry. Simply watching and enjoying my videos is also supporting me by making me feel happy. I'm happy that you're enjoying these videos, so thank you. But that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like and a sub if you did, and I'll catch you on the next one. See ya!